Over the years, many people have tried to make the best version of different Pokemon games, and I've been following Smith Plays Pokemon's attempt at making the best version of Pokemon Yellow for a while. There's been a lot of videos leading up to this on his channel, and now it's finally done, question mark. We're gonna see all the changes that have been made to the game. I'm very excited. We've reacted to a few of Smith's videos in the past before, and they're always so well made. So I'm really excited to see what him and the team has been getting up to when it comes to crafting Pokemon Yellow Legacy.
Perfect Pokemon.
All right,
over
here,
the
let's go
last
back.
6 months, my team has spent over 750 hours crafting the perfect Pokemon Yellow Romhack.
And as someone with over 2,000 hours in the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, I know that that is a very, very long time. A ludicrous amount of time.
Today, we're releasing it. In this video, we're going to cover the hundreds of changes, which includes updated gym leaders, balanced moves, better learn sets, enhanced sprites, quality of life, a revamped Elite
You can be girl. Now this is an improvement.
and brand new post-game bosses, which we'll reveal at the end of the video. Well,
It's gotta be Oak, right?
everyone deserves praise for being, the game that created Pokemon. Going back to play these older games can be very frustrating, and that's why we made this ROM hack.
It seems that a lot of people don't really like going back to play the original games because there's just not a whole lot of a reason to now that the remakes have been released. So this is going to set things apart for people and give reason to go back and play these games.
Bring the Gen 1 experience to its fullest potential while not changing so much that it feels unfamiliar to that childhood nostalgia.
So what I've seen is it's very important to this group and this team to not change too much to make it unrecognizable. Words are hard, difficult sometimes. So you get that same feel when you play the games, which I think is important because the Generation 1 games, they do have a certain feel. It's like walking back into your parents' house for Christmas dinner if you celebrate Christmas. Or, I guess, still have parents.
The video will be divided into 8 parts, and we're going to start by looking at our many quality of life improvements. Next, we'll look at changes to moves, followed by Pokemon stats and learn set changes. After that, we'll touch on the gym leaders, followed by Team Rocket. Next, it'll be Elite 4, followed by Champion. Part 8, we'll look at gym leader rematches and...
Oh, we got some sprite changes already. Yeah, I do like this sprite more for Misty. The original Misty sprite is kind of meh.
Finally end on those new post-game bosses and storyline events.
Oh, that's fun. We're getting some post-game. That's cool.
Finish on how you can play this ROM hack yourself.
Wait a minute. That's a GBA game.
YouTube has become so algorithm-based that the subscribe function is kind of losing its purpose, which is sad, but I still like seeing that number go up. So if you want to show your support on this project, it would mean a lot.
You know what they say, bigger number, better person. I've hit that subscribe button already. I've already hit the like button too.
Part 1. Quality of life. There are obviously no Pokemon games in greater need of quality of life updates than those set in Generation 1.
I actually wonder, this is my biggest ask, did they change the PC? I don't even know if you can change the PC. Maybe you can't change the PC. The way the PC functions in Generation 1 is like pulling teeth and pulling your hair at the same time and then swallowing it, while also packing in some razor blades. It's just awful. There's no good way to describe it. It's, without a doubt, the worst way that you could have made a Pokemon storage format.
Modern advances have simply shown us many features that make Pokemon a smoother experience, and going back to Gen 1 can be truly infuriating. Where's the XP bar? How do I get to the berry pouch in my bag? Why can't I cut that tree? And what?
I actually didn't mind not having the experience bar in Generation 1. Obviously, it's better to have it, but it was kind of fun just guessing. Like, oh, this is going to be the one where I level up. Oh, here it comes. No, didn't get it. All right, well, but the next one, this retire. Oh, he's going to give me 15 experience. This is going to be the one I bet.
What the hell is going on with Charmeleon?
It's iconic, but it is ugly.
Actually, on that note, we should probably start by talking about back sprites. Every single Gen 1 title saw updates to front sprites, where this basically just allowed the Pokemon to be fleshed out. A lot of the green sprites are unrecognizable, but by the time you get to yellow, you can kind of start to see what Pokemon you're working with.
It is crazy that the back sprites look so ugly, considering it's half of the way that you even see Pokemon. You either see the enemy's Pokemon or your own, and you want to see your own in a good way, don't you? Like, it's the one that you caught. You don't want to throw it out and have it be like all ugly in that.
However, back sprites were never updated from green. This means that Pokemon in yellow went through 2 visual reworks without seeing their back sprite changed. And
I wonder why they did that. Maybe they just didn't have the time to do it.
This is a massive problem because some species don't even resemble themselves by the time we get to...
Wait, I know what this is. This is Rhyhorn.
So it was clearly an issue that needed fixing. And so our amazing...
Wait, that was it right? Was it Rhyhorn?
Members Zach, Izona, Carlos, Reader, and Alakadoof have done an incredible job. Gone ahead and updated all 100 and...
Oh, you can see these are really sick. Look at these. A ton of these are updated. Yeah, look at that. Oh my goodness. I'm just sitting here looking at a few of them. Like we can see there's the Kangaskhan over here. So this is the updated version. And then we have the Electrode updated version. We have the Execute updated version. Yeah, they just seem to be a lot more detailed, I'd say. We've got Seaking here as well. Vaporeon's definitely looking better. Vaporeon doesn't look anything like it should do on its back sprite originally, and neither does Jolteon. In fact, so many of these mons don't look anything like they should do. And I cannot figure out why they made them in this way, because the design is just not off. It's not just weird and poorly made. It's just wrong. So why did they make it in this way? It's so strange. Marowak doesn't have back spines. Why does Marowak have back spines? It just doesn't even have that. Anywhere, ever. It never had that.
51 back sprites. And this might genuinely be the biggest thing for this entire ROM hack.
Okay, hold on. I want to see Gyarados's. Okay, Gyarados, yeah. Gyarados doesn't have those types of scales. So they update it and they remove those types of scales, and they update and they fix the fins that come off too. Horsey looks like a fetus. Why does Horsey look like a fetus? They update Horsey, doesn't look like a fetus anymore. I understand that these back sprites are iconic and that's how you remember them, but they really shouldn't have been like that to begin with, should they?
Adjustments range anywhere from a few pixels to entire revamps. And some of them are, in fact, so good, so natural to the game that I
see. That's what it should have looked like from the get-go.
Realized they had been changed. Another big sprite addition is the female player Green from Madame Frog and Ghost Missing Nut. In Yellow Legacy, you can now choose to play as a girl at the start of a new game. Gym leaders have also been given custom overworld sprites. And if you manage to beat the game, you'll be able to fight some new trainers that have been given custom sprites as well. Also, just like Crystal Legacy.
Wait a minute. Some new trainers, you say? So we're fighting more than Oak. We're fighting... Oh, your mom. Oh my god, imagine if you could fight your mom. I'm gonna say your mom. Oh, Daisy. Daisy and your mom's, that's gotta be one of them, surely.
Again, reused the party and Pokemon Overworld sprite assets kindly provided by another team.
Oh yeah, they look great too. So you have a different sprite for every single mon, which I mean, it's probably a little too much to have asked for in the original games because they did have a massive time crunch. But this is an updated version. This looks a lot better. It really clicks more. Like if you nickname your Pokemon, sometimes you can't even tell which one is which. If you have two Pokemon that have the same generic sprite, then you can't even tell which one's which.
You'll also notice in battle that your Pokemon now has an XP display bar, and there's also an icon to display if a wild Pokemon has been caught before. Oh, but possibly the biggest single thing added to this entire ROM. Like seriously, get ready for this, sit down, because you're gonna stand up. You know...
Okay, wait, the run button.
That stupid little blockade to the right of the Fuchsia Pokemon Center that always makes you have to go around. Yeah, we removed that. No. The Vermilion Gym Crash puzzle?
What?
Yeah, that's also been fixed. God,
no!
I hate Kanto
No!
sometimes. Now, the Pokédex
You're kidding!
And you can now view locations for all Pokemon, including gifts. More importantly, it will now show you the level up and TM moves of any Pokemon you have caught. Let me say that again. Learn sets in the Pokedex. Some poor soul skipped this part of the video. If we are to be a community, let them know. Anyway, you can now also view a Pokemon's DVs in the stat page. You go to the Pokemon, and before you select the stats option in the menu, hold start and then hit A. This will show you a Pokemon's DVs, which range from 0 to 15. And
oh, so it's very easy to just avoid seeing them too. I can see why people might be like, I don't want to see the DVs. I don't want to get too into like the nitty gritty of the numbers and stuff and worry about, oh, I caught a Pokemon with bad DVs. I should probably not use it, when you should just be thinking maybe, oh, I caught Pokemon and I want to use it regardless of that. So you don't have to see it if you don't want to too, which is good.
Similarly, you can hold select and A to view stat experience. Moving on, the running shoes join the game again.
Stat experience? Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I'll put my hands up. All right, I'm gonna be honest here. I ain't got a clue what that is.
B. The bag has also seen a tripling inside.
And there is running shoes,
which I think we again need to scream from the rooftop. By pressing start, you can also auto sort the bag to put relevant items next to each other. This puts TMs towards the bottom, which again, scream it from the rooftop, have been given abbreviated names so that you actually know what they are. And while TMs
hey, this is big. This is huge. This is, we're saving Generation 1. 1996 is calling. They're crying. They wish they were us.
Single use for balance, we've made it so all TMs can eventually be purchased infinitely. On top of Celadon, you'll see more become available in Fuchsia and Cinnabar. And before beating the game, the Indigo Plateau lobby now holds mostly high power, perfect accuracy moves like Ice Beam, while another
and Horn Drill
will appear after you beat the league to sell you the top power moves like Blizzard. Also,
oh, and you can buy PP ups too. It's just given so many options. I always appreciate having more options. because it's not forced on you. You can just choose to avoid it if that's what you desire. But for some reason, Game Freak seems hell-bent on taking away options. Like, for example, the set battle style. It's just not in Scarlet and Violet. Why? I don't know. You can still just hit the B button and do your own set battle style. They just took away the option. But why? Why would you? It doesn't make any sense.
So along with Skull Bash, Razor Wind now functions like Hyper Beam. Also, you know how it's really annoying to buy coins in Gen 1? Well, we've added a shady man in the Game Corner prize room who will sell you coins 500 at a time. He's gonna overcharge you a little bit, but it's worth it if you're impatient like me. And
Oh, I see. He's stealing from the poor and giving to himself.
on that note, spinners in the rocket hideouts have been sped up. Fast save, fast heal, a reuse repel prompt, and we've removed the requirement for 50 Pokemon for the Gen 1 experience.
The reuse repel prompt might be the most useful thing that has ever been created in a Pokemon game.
The Safari Zone catching mechanics have also been improved. The Safari Zone also just has a lot more rare, cool, awesome Pokemon. We've also
It is sick that you can find a Nidoking, Queen.
Old Rod to the Meridian Mart, while the Good Rod is now where the Old Rod used to be in Vermilion.
But if the old rod is in the Viridian Mart, then you can get it right at the start of the game, which means there's no necessary requirement to buy a Magikarp from the Magikarp vendor, which means we're actually shutting down small businesses and destroying the economy.
Fire Fuchsia Good Rod location
Give a man a fishing rod, he'll destroy the local business.
will now give you the second fossil. Also, massive reminder, if something is not mentioned, it's because it hasn't been changed. I didn't mention the Super Rod, so you can assume that's unchanged. Love you. Sorry, we get a lot of comments. Once more, Trade Evos now evolved by level up, and you'll be
And I'm sure that there is some kind of way to, see all the changes in this game. I would imagine there's probably some kind of like, oh yeah, if you download the patch, then you probably, there's a guide. Yeah, there's literally a guide here. There's a PDF. There's some codes. Wow, there's a lot down here, actually. That's sick.
Be pleased to know that HMs now have overworld function. You can click on a tree, a boulder, or the water to use that HM instantly. Further,
It is weird that that wasn't in the game originally. Again, probably just time constraints, I'd imagine.
HMs can once again be deleted at any point in the game, and it is beautiful. And to prevent excessive soft locking, HMs can no longer be deposited into the PC. This shouldn't be a problem though, as the bag now has room for 60 items.
Well, this shouldn't be a problem because you shouldn't be getting yourself in situations that you can soft lock anyway. Like, you're really going to deposit your HMs into the PC, especially when you have more slots in your bag, so that you can go ahead and then delete those HMs from your Pokemon as well. Okay, it's kind of your fault if you do that.
Also, seeing as how Pikachu is shown flying and surfing in the opening scene, it now has access to every HM. And just like in Crystal Legacy, we've added a hard mode function, which enforces you to play all battles in set mode without the use of items. Your Pokemon will
Okay, so it's kind of like a hardcore Nuzlocke mode. Well, without the Nuzlocke, obviously. Without the dying thing.
also not be able to gain XP once they hit the highest level of the upcoming gym leader's team. Surge is the one leader that actually has a lower level cap than his ace, and that's because he has a single Pokemon. Hard mode also keeps in
Oh, that's right. I forgot Surge had one Pokemon in this, which is actually, it is connected to the anime. It does make sense.
the 1 in 256 miss, but in both versions, we've removed the 25% chance for enemy stat down moves to miss. Now, as for more glitch focus fixes, our philosophy was to eliminate anything that didn't serve a purpose to the identity of Gen 1. That means neat quirks such as crit rate being based off of speed remains as they are. Furthermore, moves like Razor Leaf still retain what's essentially an auto crit function. Special being a single stat remains, and there is, please say it with me, no physical special split.
No physical special split. Woo! I mean, I guess it makes sense. You don't want to change it for Generation 1 because then you're fundamentally changing how the battles work, how the moves work, how everything is built, how all the teams are built. You're just changing everything at that point.
Interactions like Toxic Leech Seed remain, and while this isn't a glitch, Leech Seed, Poison, and Burn now deal 1/8 damage instead of 1/16 because it was really bad. Now,
Okay, so what about Wrap, though?
on the other hand, things that were purely detrimental, like the 1 in 256 miss or focus energy lowering crit chance, have been removed. There's also been a ton of pure glitch and visual bug removals. Dual type move effectiveness is no longer misreported. Fly and Dig no longer give invulnerable status when prevented by paralysis or confusion. Haze can't prevent a Pokemon from attacking after curing Freeze. Ghost is now super effective.
Wait, Haze prevented a Pokemon from attacking? What? Why would it do that?
Against Psychic rather than immune, and the AI Psywave functions the same as the player. There's more, but
Wait, it didn't function the same? Okay, these are some Generation 1 little gimmicks that I didn't know. This could have been in an obscure Generation 1 glitches that you didn't know about video, unless it already was, in which case, oh, I guess it was in that one. That you remember that one?
Overall, the Gen 1 code was an absolute nightmare for our programmer Craig to deal with. So
I'm pretty sure they programmed it. Oh, it wasn't binary. It wasn't machine. They didn't program it in machine code, did they? I remember Generation 1. I remember hearing about Generation 1 being programmed in a very obscure language that was very difficult to use. Assembly. That was it. It was programmed in assembly. Now, if you don't know much about programming, assembly is... it's a very difficult language to use. It's very close to the base. Programming languages kind of build on each other and they become more sophisticated, and you can use more, we'll say, human language in your programming as you go up. In things like C++, you can use words, and you can use sometimes even maybe like sentences. It's been a long time. I used to do computer science in university, but it's been a very long time. Assembly is very close to the base. You know, binary is ones and zeros. It's not quite that, but it's not quite being able to use proper words. I think assembly is based on mostly pointing at something and then switching something on and off. It's very complicated and it's very nightmarish to use.
while we've playtested on over 100 individual saves, bear with us that the initial launch may still have a small bug or two. Oh, and if you do want to get notified of future updates, just make sure to subscribe. Part 2, moves. So I don't know how obvious this is, but moves are the most fundamental and important building block of the Pokemon experience. It's not
Maka looks so silly.
actually the Pokemon themselves, as different learn sets can combine to make the same Pokemon feel very different. But it's these moves that combine to make learn sets, which when combined with stats, make...
Oh my god, hey, that's a pretty good moveset right there. Maybe we should take a nice little gander at that moveset, and what do we think about it? Let me know in the comments. What do you think about that moveset?
a Pokemon. Pokemon make teams and ultimately combine together to create your entire game. What I'm saying is moves are really important, and Gen 1 does not have well-designed moves. Gen 1
Yeah, Razor Wind is pointless. Why did they make this move? 25% chance to miss with a charge-up turn?
Gen 1's list of available moves is a nonsensical, poorly distributed, uncohesive shitshow that makes achieving even a modicum of game balance really hard.
Damn, let us know how you really feel.
Looking at the ground type. Ground was especially tricky to balance because of the 4 ground moves that exist in this game, 2 are Cubone exclusives.
Which is just so strange. I mean, I get like Dig and Earthquake is pretty much all you need. Like, you're really not going to need more than that. But come on. You could have had like one
I
more.
want to get started on the distribution percentage there, but even if we wanted to break the exclusive move rule, it wouldn't make sense for ground types like Diglett or Rhyhorn to get Bone Club anyway. So to
I mean, hey, maybe there's a different kind of bone that they can use if they really want to.
stay in line with the Romhack's vision and not add any future moves, we were forced to balance the entirety of the ground type with just Earthquake and Dig, which in this game, Dig is acquired after the second gym and has the same base power as Earthquake.
Oh, that's right. It does have the same base power as Earthquake. I totally forgot about that. I don't know why they programmed it to have 100 base power. I mean, they're both very good, but there's not really much difference. There's no difference between the two.
Like, I think this example alone is enough to sum up just how unbalanced Gen 1 is. Now, in this and pretty much every case, we wanted to make moves balanced so that Pokemon could actually have stab moves throughout most of the game. And so in order to make it so ground types could learn an early ground move, we had to make Dig power, otherwise you'd be giving Earthquake to Pokemon before the third gym.
But also, we also increased the amount of PP that you have to account for the fact that it gets a reduce in power. And Dig is still, it's a little bit weaker than it is usually. I think usually it has 80 base power.
Similarly, you've got the Fire type, which only had 5 moves. One of which is the mid-power Fire Punch, which was only given to Magmar and Hitmonchan. Now,
I'm going to be honest, I did not know Fire Punch was in Generation 1. I've also never used Hitmonchan or Magmar in Generation 1 either.
Outside of the Charmander line, you can't give this move to any of the Fire Pokemon because they're all quadrupedal beasts and Moltres. Then there's the absurdly broken Fire Spin, which in Gen 1 stops the enemy from attacking for 2 to 5 turns. This then...
Yes. Oh, what do we do with this though? Do we keep it the same way it is or do we change it?
With Ember, Flamethrower, and Fire Blast to find balance. In this case, all we could really do is make Flamethrower TM and hope for the best. Now, Electric was in a pretty similar spot, but compare these two types to Water, which gets way more moves, and HM Surf around the 5th badge.
The HM for Surf is the biggest part here. I mean, Withdraw is obviously the strongest move that we have here. You withdrawing in your shell. What is anyone going to do about that? Ball Beam is a nice mid-tier attacking move. You have Crab Hammer as a move exclusive. You have your high-powered stuff and Hydro Pump. You have your low-powered stuff and Water Gun. Waterfall is in Generation 1. For some reason, I guess Seeking had to have its own move because, let me tell you, when you look at Seeking, you think to yourself, well, that's a Pokemon that looks like it should have its own move, right?
There's really no way to make things perfect, and we just gotta try to do our best.
Well, oh my god, is that the... Okay, I have something to say about this little video to the right here. Okay, I have something to say about this. Fire-type fans are the heat death of the universe claims it all. They have flash fire. This video...
Gotta try to do our best. And a good place to start with that is by...
That video right there, sorry, did I say to the right, to the left, has been following me for years. People have sent me this video, I am not joking, probably over 100 times. And they have said to me, Daniel, I didn't know you were that good at dancing. I've had this tweeted at me. I've had this sent to my Instagram messages. I've been tagged in this video more times than I can count, and I can't count very high. And I would like to say, yes, that is definitely me, and I can totally dance that well. That's really me.
Grass. So with no Giga Drain in Gen 1, Absorb had to see its power raise from 20 to 30, while Mega Drain went from 40 to 65. We also decided to make Egg Bomb a grass move for Exeggutor, which is still not near as powerful as the game's auto-crit Razor Leaf.
Ooh, I mean, that's a cool change. I do like
and lastly,
that.
With Sunny Day, Solar Beam is absolutely useless, and it wasn't able to find use until its base power was set to 180. Sounds strong, right? Well, given that it's a 2-turn move, its effective base power of 90 still puts it 20 under Razor Leaf. Oh, and you want to talk ice types for a second? Okay, let's back this up and look at the power moves. There's 120 power Thunder, which has a 10% parry chance and is 70% accurate.
I always wondered why these power moves were unbalanced, because you have different accuracies and different powers for all of them, right? So Thunder has 120 base power, 70% accuracy.
120 Hydro Pump with no effect, but...
War is just better. It's just better. I mean, it does have lower PP, I imagine, but how many times are you really gonna use these moves before you go to a Pokemon Center? The only time that really comes into play is when you're in the Elite Four. And it doesn't really come into play because if you have a 70% accurate move, it doesn't matter that it has 10 PP, it's still not gonna land any times.
80 accuracy. The underperforming Fire type at least gets Fire Blast with 80.
Like, Fire Blast is pretty good for where it is. 85% accuracy, but it still feels like 50.
5% accuracy. Alternatively, Mega Kick is the last 120 power move found in the game, but
no one has ever used this. No one should ever use this.
It has 75 and no secondary effect. And then you've got Blizzard.
It has 90% accuracy? What? And a 1 in 10 chance of reason. And 120 power? Okay, in Generation 1, I thought Blizzard had 110 power. I thought it was weaker.
Which, by nature, is the best offensive type of the group, has a 10% chance to permanently stop the enemy from doing anything at all with Freeze, and has 90% accuracy. Gen 1 is broken. They're looking for just...
They had meetings about this, you know. They sat around the table and they designed this.
A scrap of balance. We were forced to make Blizzard, along with the other power moves, all 85% accurate.
All right, that's
Attack
fair.
has also joined this club, no longer being a 2-turn move. And on that note, Gust has become a flying type move, and Wing Attack has seen its power go from 35 to 60. On top,
why was it at 35?
Karate Chop, Fighting has seen Submission get perfect accuracy. Jump Kick has also gone from 70 to 90 base power, while High Jump Kick goes from 85 to 120. And while
that's
that sounds pretty good, Fighting is still not very great. Now moving over to the Poison Realm, there was simply no...
Because there are so many poison types in Generation 1.
Power move here, so we've basically just upgraded everything a tier. Poison Sting goes from 15 to 35 to effectively become Acid. Acid goes from 40 to 65 to essentially become Sludge.
Well, I mean, you'd think that Acid would do a lot of damage, considering that it is literally Acid. Have you ever seen that Saw Trap, the one with the Acid? Yeah, he didn't get out of that one, did he? Sorry, spoiler alert, didn't get out of the fucking Saw Trap with the Acid, did he?
Sludge becomes 90 to move into the role of future Sludge Mode. As for Rock, there are 2. Let me say that again. 2 moves in the game. And
Rockshi was on this game?
It's actually enough to just give them both accuracy buffs. In need of a massive help, however, was the Bug type.
Oh, now this is depressing to look at. They really looked at this list of Game Freak and now like, yeah, no, that's fine. That looks pretty good, actually. pretty proud of that one. We can wrap ourselves up. They probably did this in 3 minutes. No, probably 30, right? Yeah, 30 minutes.
Leech Life became 50 power, while Twin Needle became 80. Once again, HM Cut becomes a bug move, but due to broken crit mechanics, now without the high crit chance. Now, given how underused Bug was in Gen 1, it's not surprising to me if you didn't know that Bug is super effective against poison.
What? No. What? What? Super effect. What? That doesn't make any sense. What? This goes against everything that I thought I knew. Everything's backwards. Everything's turned on its head now. What?
What? Didn't know this until I started making a Romhack. And this actually led to a pretty funny thing. In giving bug Pokemon any bug move whatsoever, this allowed them to have 4 times effectiveness on 13 Pokemon in the game. If you can't tell, that is
grass poisons. Oh my god, that's right. Wow, hey, that's a big increase. That's a big improvement.
more broken than the water type. And so this backed us up into a corner where the options were to let Bug stay awful, but in doing so, you let Psychic remain insane. Didn't really like that option, so we ended up giving Bug still a massive buff, but that buff was held back by removing its effectiveness against poison.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that's fair. I actually think that letting him be super effective against poison is a bit weird, but not that bad because there are so few bug Pokemon, there are so few bug moves. The bug moves that they're in there, they're not very strong. So a quad effectiveness, yeah, it's doing a lot. It'll probably still one-shot a lot of things, but it's not the worst thing in the world that could happen. There's not that many bugs that you can really get that strong regardless anyway. I mean, what are you going to do with Beedrill? Really? You're gonna go to the moon with Beedrill? I don't know. It's going to be a tough one. And having Bug actually be able to do something is cool. But the counterpoint to that is Bug isn't super effective against poison ever again. In fact, it's resisted. So that's a little bit of a dichotomy, we'll say. It's a little bit different.
Buff poison, which was always an underperformer. Now, speaking of Psychic, we've removed the type glitch so that Ghosts now deal super effective damage. That's actually it. Psychic is by far still the best type in the game. It's just now got a few weaknesses, like...
I feel like a Gen 1 without Psychic being the best type is no Gen 1 at all. It's supposed to be ludicrously overpowered. That's what I'll say.
Ghost, which has gone from dealing physical to special damage.
Which makes way more sense. Why does Ghost deal physical damage? It's a ghost. It's not physical at all. It goes through walls. I can't high-five a ghost. There's nothing physical about it.
And given that Lick was the only damaging move in Gen 1, we've actually turned Nightshade into one as well. But let's just talk about Gengar for a second. With normal resistance, sleep, speed, healing, Thunderbolt, Psychic, and Mega Drain, Gengar at base is one of the most oppressive Pokemon in Gen 1.
And you're gonna blow your mind when you see Gengar at Super Saiyan.
Truly did not need a buff, but it stylistically felt weird to leave Ghost type without a move. So Nightshade can't really be any stronger than 60 base power, and this still makes Gengar more cracked than it already was. And lastly, outside of the many normal move tweaks, the last thing we did was make Dragon deal physical damage and make Slam Dragon type.
It does make sense. Dragon being physical does make sense. I guess you could go down the whole way of, oh, it's a fairy tale, it's mythical, it is kind of ethereal in a way, but dragons are very physical creatures. They're big, they're imposing, they're muscular, they're so dreamy, right?
One dragon is meant to be extremely rare, and this caused a lot of confusion. However, what should cause absolutely no confusion at all is, are you ready for it?
Wait a minute.
That is right, ladies and gentlemen. For the first time, we have merch. I mean, look, it's pretty simple. We got super comfy hoodies. We got gray, white, charcoal. Embroidered Smith Place color logo. You love 6 sweaters. You love our content. You simply want to support the channel. Check them out.
do.
That's it. Thanks.
Okay.
Anyway, let's move on. Part 3. Pokemon balancing. So the very first thing I need to just get out right at the front of this section is Trade Evos, Machamp and Golem. They now evolve at 38, while the Game Breakers, Alakazam, and Gengar are 42.
Okay, that makes sense to delay them a little bit further because they are just generally better.
All 151 Pokemon can be acquired in the game for a full living dex. On top of being able to now check your Pokedex for this information, there's also a giant, rigorous Google Doc with all changes made to the game in the description.
Oh, there's a big, rigorous Google Doc in this description. Let's have a look at this massive, rigorous Google Doc, shall we? Oh, would I like to make a copy? Sure, let's make a copy. I don't know if it's thinking about it. Okay, I guess we'll come back to that one.
But getting back to the Pokemon themselves, as a result of unbalanced moves causing this horrific distribution, Gen 1 Pokemon were laughably unbalanced. But now that we have moves fixed, we can craft Gen 1 into a balanced and dynamic roster. Now, we don't have time to cover every single learn set change again, which we did in this video, so we're going to look at Rhydon to give you a representative example of how we've balanced learn sets.
I do love Rhydon. It's probably one of my favorite Pokemon designs of all time.
You can also now go to your Pokedex and view the level up learn set of any Pokemon you've caught. Now, originally, the Rhydon line started with...
Dude, this is the saddest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. No rock moves, no ground moves. What were they thinking? What was this? Rhydon is such a cool mon. This is the first mon that they made. Why would they give him such a terrible moveset?
Horn attack, and then learned the equal power stomp, and then got the worst fury attack, and finally ended up with takedown? No.
That's what you end with? Takedown? You have Horn Attack until level 30?
Rock moves, no stab moves. This is just what a lot of Gen 1 Pokemon look like. Now, in Yellow Legacy, Stomp is still an early learn, but the first major add-on is Rock Throw at level 19. It's also now one of the many Pokemon getting Dig, which Rhyhorn will see at 24. At 35, the line gets Rock Slide, and then Earthquake at 44. And so with those 4 moves added, that is just...
I hope that you can catch Rhyhorn somewhat early in the game, too, because it would just be nice to be able to have a Rhyhorn on your team.
Great example.
I feel like the Dark Cave, Dark Tunnel, Rock Tunnel is a good place to be able to find things like this.
Of what we've done for pretty much every Pokemon. The general guideline was that as long as it was appropriate stylistically, a Pokemon shouldn't have to rely on TMs to get stab moves. And furthermore, when possible, those stab moves should be available as an early, mid-game, and late-game option. Now, unfortunately, in some cases, these changes were still not enough to give a Pokemon, at the very least, a niche use in the game. Our goal is to make it so that no Pokemon is in the F or completely useless tier and has at least some use case for some portion of the game.
Oh no, we gotta get some of those bad boys in the D tier. Like, you gotta at least have like a couple in the D tier, right? You still have to have bad Pokemon. Not every Pokemon is supposed to be good.
Pikachu is the Pokemon in most need of help, given that it's your only option as a starter. Pikachu is a Pokemon you wouldn't expect to be roided to the gills. So our goal with balancing it was more about finding a way to make it feel like it punches above its weight class. First, we buffed its base stats as hard as we could until it started to...
Okay, I'm gonna make an assumption. I'm gonna guess that the base stat total goes up to, I'll say 430. So it's not overwhelming, but it is above where you think it might be. I'm gonna assume that its speed goes up to 100 and its special attack goes up to 80.
Lose its identity. That resulted in 20.
Oh, okay. I was pretty close. It was pretty close. Yeah, not quite there, but very, very along the right lines.
5 HP, 20 defense, and 20 special for a total effective base stat raise of 85 in modern Pokemon terms. These changes alone weren't enough to fix its late game fall off. So we also upped the badge boost to raise its respective stats by 25% instead of the typical 12.5. Beating Brock gives a pretty
that is a huge buff, too.
Total boost in attack, while beating Blaine gives a very needed boost in special.
I like how this gameplay is just showing a Pikachu with no way of attacking the Geodude.
This also makes the interaction of stat-modifying moves reapplying the badge boost more effective. Or,
quick, Pikachu, turn on the sprinklers!
You know, as J-Rose would probably say, it makes the badge boost glitch even better. The great thing with this, though, is that given Pikachu's frailty, it's still not overpowered. We also gave it Thunder Punch to be a sort of mid-power electric move at 20, while Thunderbolt now comes at 30, and...
Okay, to be fair, I would love to see a Pikachu just, like, really clock someone. Just like the Pika, bam, 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 right like that.
Replaces Slam at 24. And so, on top of being great at taking out water and flying types, this gives it a very strategic niche. Pikachu can now land Para, followed by using a Double Team or Agility to boost its stats, and then go for Headbutt flinches. And it's really this specific combo...
Ooh, that's an interesting little combo that I didn't think of.
...moves that makes Pikachu feel able to pull off sort of anime moments. It creates these tense moments where you're rolling the dice and sometimes Pikachu gets lucky and it just beats something that it realistically shouldn't. I genuinely cannot express just how much love I have for this build of Pikachu, and I think it's perfect for what its given role should be. Now, alternatively, for the Raichu...
Sure, no, that's a lot of fun. I do respect that, and I do respect not making Pikachu overpowered, because I feel like in the Let's Go games, the starters, Eevee and Pikachu, while they did get buffed, they're not like ridiculously strong. The moves that they get make them way too powerful for what they should be, essentially.
Fans, you're really not supposed to be able to get this in the game. But I knew, if I don't do it, there's going to be people that are complaining. So, for you absolute mad lad Raichu stans, there is a 1% encounter rate for it in the power plants. You're really not supposed to be running Raichu in Pokemon Pikachu Edition, so this is meant to be a discouraging task that only true Raichu fans will go for. Now, outside of the
How many Raichu stands are there out there, really,
Pikachu
though?
line, I really wanted to focus on making generational underperformers shine in their debut region. Now, not being one of those, the Charmander line was in need of a stat boost, and it got 5, 5, and finally 10 plus special on Charizard.
Okay, I mean, that's a decent buff there.
Arbok was, however, seeing Crystal Legacy changes, while Clefable gets 10 special, and Wigglytuff gets 10 defense and 35 special.
Wow, has 140 HP. That is insane. This is so specially bulky.
Also worth noting that because Sleep is so broken in Gen 1, Butterfree and Jigglypuff are now the only 2 early sleepers. Grass types will then get them in the mid-game, and finally the more broken Pokemon like Gengar get them in the late game. Now the
Does Hypnosis have a higher hit rate or something in Generation 1?
line also sees a noteworthy boost, while Golbat gets plus 10 speed to put it just a little closer to Crobat. Venomoth gets the very nice crystal treatments, and Vileplume sees a little more HP to help with its tanky absorber role. Now, given that Diglett lost power with the Dig nerf, we've upped its attack
Oh my god, it has 10 HP. That's so sad.
to compensate. And I always felt like a Pokemon with Rapid in its name should be pretty fast, so Rapid
It is weird the Rapidash and Dodrio, the fast Pokemon, are really, like, not that fast. I have decent speed, but it's not
gets
great.
10 more speeds to make it stand out as the fastest fire type. Puck gets
Nice.
20 special, while Marowak actually gets 30, and this is to help its unique TM learn set make it stand out from Sandslash. The Hitmons also get quite a noteworthy boost. Now, due to stat XP, Primeape coming so much earlier makes it strictly outclass Hitmonlee, and so letting it keep exclusive access to the now 120 power high jump kick, it's definitely
Okay, that does make sense. Having a jump kick that most Pokemon can learn, and then having the improved version that the kicker can learn, it just does make like a lot more sense. Giving high jump kick to other Pokemon would kind of take away from the point of even taking Hitmonlee in the first place, which most people take Hitmonchan because it just has more variety. It just seems like a better choice. But Hitmonlee has such a cool design. I've always loved Hitmonlee's design, but I don't ever see people using Hitmonlee, ever, really.
its own niche now as a later fighting pickup. On the other side, Hitmonchan has seen a huge boost in special to allow it to take advantage of its 3 punches. Now, it has seen a pretty big nerf in attack, but
This is interesting. It does have a massive attack nerf. It's not actually very good physically.
Karate Chop stab crit more than makes up for that. Lickitung, Magmar, Eevee, and
Imagine trying to karate chop with a boxing glove. I can't imagine extending my fingers. You'd break them before you could.
Porygon also sees some notable stat changes, but the biggest buff of any Pokemon is actually to Onix. And seeing as he is the ace of the first gym, it's time to move on. Part 4, Gym Leaders.
Here we
In red and
go.
blue,
Okay, I'm going to assume that Brock has more rock-type moves, maybe a lot more rock
Rock
throws.
exists to teach you about type matchups. But because there are no early elemental Pokemon to catch and wreck him with, this is not the case in Yellow. Instead, Brock serves as a pretty serious roadblock that can only be overcome with Butterfree, Mankey, and Nidoran. Unfortunately though, for party building, this is a bit too limiting. So we set out to add more Pokemon to the early game.
Okay, wait, are they doing... Okay, Poliwag is insane. I was going to say, if they do Poliwag, Oddish, and Growlithe in the early game, that's sick. I'm not saying this because I'm biased and I have a Growlithe behind me because Growlithe is my favorite Pokemon of all time. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it because of that. Listen, I have 5 Subnoodles behind me, okay? I also have Gamer Subs here, which you can get Gamer Subs with code Patterrz, less than $1 per serving, caffeine or caffeine-free variations with international shipping. I'm not saying that you should use code Patterrz at Gamer Subs. I'm just saying that you can use code Patterrz at Gamer Subs, and that Arcanine is my favorite Pokemon of all time.
Oddish, Poliwag, and Beedrill can now be acquired before Brock, and both sides have been meticulously balanced. First, we've given Brock's Geodude Rock Throw to boost the team's overall damage. This then allows Onix to keep its more defensive role. Onix has seen its HP raised by 40.
160, it has 530 base stats overall. It has 80 base attack. It used to have 45 base attack. Oh my days. This is such an improvement. This makes Onix an actually usable Pokemon. It makes it an imposing terror, like I feel like it should have been in the original games. But it's also one-shotable by Poliwag.
Attack raised by 35, special upped by 35, and speed from 70 to 85.
It also makes Brock a lot more of a interesting first battle.
Also now does 40 damage instead of 20. These changes were in part to give the player more party options. A giant problem with Pokemon Yellow is that a lot of players' parties end up looking the exact same, with Pikachu, all 3 starters, and Snorlax. The game's encounters
I don't think I ever used Snorlax in Pokemon Yellow. I think I was too dumb to be able to catch it.
Simply leave very little room for veering off this path, and so that's a big reason why we added an elemental trio before Brock. And with all 151 Pokemon available in the game, you can use your Pokedex to view these new locations. In a lot of cases, however, we've simply just added Pokemon back to their original red and blue location. Now, Misty is the first gym to see party changes. Staryu always felt super redundant, so we've replaced it with Psyduck and Goldeen.
Oh, that's cool. I also didn't know that was Psyduck's sprite. It is, it's a little sad. I can't lie.
Psyduck has Confusion to stop a grass poison type to get the jump and sweep, and we decided to let Goldeen showcase its Gen 1 signature move, Waterfall. Now, the biggest issue with Misty is that she claimed to run an all-out offensive strategy, while usually just opting to spam X defense. But now, to match this ideology, her Starmie will run Confusion, Swift, and Bubble Beam. Misty.
Why do they have X defense? Why did they have X items to begin with? I know they're supposed to be gym leaders, so you give them items to make them stronger, but it really doesn't even help that much.
Along with all other major trainers, have also had their usable items removed, as this just makes the game more fun.
Giving an X defense to a Pokemon that is weak to elemental special moves just seems like a waste of time.
Also given major trainers AI an upgrade using code from the Kanto expansion project. In base Gen 1, leaders often lose because they do weird things like pull out the agility spam on poison types. To fix that specific problem, we've actually made status moves bird type under the hood. And so with that plus an overall improved AI, you'll see opponents make much better plays.
Did you say bird type?
Moving on to Surge, his lone Raichu has always been a point of contention for yellow players. I personally find this to be an extremely unique fight for the series though, so I've done my best to keep it in the game.
No, I like it. It's very anime. It's very cool to have a gym leader with one Pokemon that is a much higher level too. I think it's a very cool fit.
Thunderbolt, Body Slam, Surf, and Thunder Wave, and
oh, Surf? Okay, that's an interesting one.
This makes it a serious threat to all opponents. Basically, the goal was to make it so that nothing hardwalls it. You can't just roll in with an over-leveled Doug trio and expect to sweep. It's one large singular boss, and it's designed so that you have to have your team work together to chip it down slowly. Also,
it's like a Terra battle or a Dynamax
for hard mode
adventure.
Players, Lieutenant Surge's level cap will also be a few below that of his Raichu.
This looks like a Nuzlocke killer, to be honest. This looks like it's going to do a lot of damage to your team.
Erica's grass poison types are pretty awful, and this always made the fourth gym quite forgettable. Fortunately, grass types have a lot of great moves, so we've balanced this poor defense by giving Erica great offense. Her whole team is equipped with the likes of Sleep Powder, Stun Spore, Wrap, Razor Leaf, and Solar Beam. Even with this, Erica can still be pretty easy with a good Psychic or Flying type, but now she is an absolute nightmare if you don't have an answer. And similarly, the fifth gym leader Koga sees a pretty awful team. He has
okay, so Koga has... Yeah, dude, what is this? That is insane. Okay, Koga's red and blue team is far and away so much better than this one. I don't know what they were thinking with having 3 Venonats. What are they, little bombs that you can throw out so you can explode and maybe kill the trainer by accident?
3 Venonats and a Venomoth, which is supposed to represent him throwing out the same one over and over until it evolves. I guess it's a neat idea, but it just makes for
I guess it gets like a little bit stronger. It's like Venonat, Venonat, Venonat. Oh, he has Venomoth. Except Venomoth isn't big enough of a threat to actually be scary or have it be the end boss here.
Awful fight. Like, you're telling me that this guy made it to the E4 and not Sabrina? Sure, Game Freak, whatever you say. Now, it's actually at this point where the game is going to see a route split similar to what we did in Crystal Legacy. Because Kanto tries to be non-linear, we've added dynamic level scaling to gyms 4, 5, and 6 to accommodate players taking alternate routes. Erica actually now has 3 different teams, depending on if you challenge her as badge 4, 5, and 6.
That is really cool. I like that a lot.
Now, given that Erica really is meant to be the 4th gym leader, she isn't really the focus of this. And that's because in base yellow, both teams of Koga and Sabrina are level 50. And this always confused me as to why there is such a massive jump here. I know that you can go around all the areas and battle all the trainers, but you'd assume that a child is going to see a gym and be like, I see gym, I want to go in gym, please let me in gym now, please. And then get absolutely battered by a Pokemon that's like 15 levels above where it should be. Made for a super awkward badge 5. See, now whichever one you challenge first will see a level cap of 43, while the 6th badge leader will give you the level 50 fight.
That makes sense.
Will also have a 5th Pokemon. Sabrina will keep her Abra trio, but we're also adding in Mr. Mime and Hypno. Meanwhile, Koga's been given Golbat, Tentacruel, and Weezing, plus Muck for badge 6.
This is fun.
Can also take note of a certain someone training in Koga's gym.
Now, that's really cool reference.
Badge 7,
Janine from the becomes the gym leader.
Given Charizard and a Magmar Ace to fill out his fiery team. His
And makes sense, he has Magmar. I don't know why he doesn't. Does he not have Magmar in yellow? That's what he has in the anime.
members have been given moves like Solar Beam, Nightshade, Psychic, and Thunder Punch to help with coverage.
Ooh, that is a solid
Can't
team.
be overly lethal simply due to fire not being that great, but we've made his team the best for what it can be. Giovanni, however, has been cooked to the highest degree. But
Which he should be. He's the mob
Before we
boss.
get
He's the Dawn.
his final gym team, I think it makes sense to first go back and go through all of the Rockets and then finish with him. Part 5.
Oh, okay. I see what we're doing here. It's Team Rocket time, huh? But before we move on to the Team Rocket section, I can take a little bit of a look at this doc here, and it is impressive. Like, there is an exhaustive amount of information. We got faster Nurse Joy, faster saves, stuff that wasn't talked about in the video. There's a ton of stuff. Oh my god, there's so much stuff. There's even the smallest changes, like Poliwhirl evolving at level 18. There's the other evolution changes. There's all of the changes to all the different moves that have been made. It's just so interesting. There's been tiny changes made to some Pokemon, big changes made to other Pokemon. Like, it's definitely worth a look. All right, Team Rocket time. Here we go.
Team Rocket. While not quite as bad as Gen 2, the Gen 1 Rockets have overall needed some pretty noteworthy upgrades.
I'm going to assume that they make upgrades to the teams of a lot of them, adding Pokemon to a lot of them. There's also the Team Rocket from the anime that are in it, like the Meowth, the Ekans, and the Arbok. Maybe they get upgrades too. I don't think they'll get new Pokemon since they want to keep them close to the originals and close to the game. But the Grunts, they could do a little bit of an upgrade in terms of what the Pokemon actually use.
Along with Team, his members have been given moves
What happened? Why did it go back? No, don't go back. What?
raised to keep up with the player. I actually think Gen 1 does a pretty great job of keeping the level curve challenging through the first two gyms, and so both trainers and Rockets in Mount Moon are remaining relatively unchanged. It's really as you head towards Celadon where things start to really fall off. And I think
Because you want to feel like this evil group and organization is actually threatening to you, a child, which it should be because it's a group of criminal adults. And in the games, they don't really do anything. In most of the games, they don't really do anything. These grunts that work for these criminal organizations, they're still threatening. You might think of the grunts that work for criminal organizations in real life. They're still threatening. They still take him out and make him sleep with the fishes, boss. You know what I'm saying? They're still doing some damage. I mean, you might be a prodigy, and that's true. The player character is pretty much a prodigy that is surpassing everybody else in the world. But there's got to be some kind of risk going into an evil hideout, surely,
it's
right?
the Rocket hideout that truly marks the point in the game where non-major trainers just become a non-issue. We've fixed this all over, and we've done a really good job of keeping the enemies scaling to the player's level. Also, really important side note, because there's probably a lot of you that have just never played Gen 1 before. By the end of the game, you are going to be...
It does shock me how many people haven't played Gen 1. There's so many people that started with all the games afterwards. The people that started with Scarlet and Violet. People that started with Sword and Shield. There's people that started with 4th gen, 3rd gen, 2nd gen. A lot of PokeTubers started with 3rd gen. I started with 1st gen, and that's not to say that I'm any better than anyone else, because I'm certainly not. If anything, I'm much stupider and worse, but I think it's interesting that there's a lot of people that haven't really gone back to where this series began, where we all started, or where we, I guess, not all of us started, some of us started
quite below the level of opponents. This has and always will be an intentional design point of Gen 1 because of stat experience. Basically, to make this part really short, because most of you probably already know it, if you get a...
I actually don't know this. Wait, is this just EVs? To determine the growth of a Pokemon stats. Oh, it's EVs, but for Gen 1 because there wasn't really EVs in Gen 1.
Pokemon at level 5 and trained it all the way up to level 50, it'll be way stronger than if you just caught that Pokemon at level 50 because of stat experience.
A Pokemon at level 50 trained with stat experience is probably closer to level 60, and that's why you're going to be under-leveled.
Okay, cool, right.
Where were we? Oh yes, the Rocket
Yeah.
Hideout. The Rocket Hideout has overall been given much better levels. You're still welcome to pull the Pokédoll skip if you want, but we've actually added some incentive to go through.
Wait, the what? The Pokédoll skip?
Flamethrower has replaced Whirlwind as a TM, and it's been placed here, swapping with Razorwind's location. Double Edge
Oh, that's an insane upgrade.
is still here, but now that it's been boosted to 120 power, you probably want to pick it up. As you progress through the midsection of the game, you'll see both the west and eastern passage to Fuchsia scaling similarly higher. Silphco was then the game's second major low point for trainer levels, and the Rockets here have been improved too. The trainer
Because there's so many of them. Who really goes through Silphco and fights all the trainers? Unless you're playing Kaizo Ironmon, I don't think anyone's really doing that for the most part. Maybe this will give them a kind of a reason to do it.
much more experience, show some more interesting Pokemon, and this really helps as you head into the Sabrina fight.
You know, it really does make sense that Team Rocket Guns would use Machoke and Machamp and things like that. I know in the anime, Giovanni or the final gym used a Machamp and Giovanni liked to use Machamp, but it makes sense that Brute and just straight up strength would be the go-to for some of these criminals.
Now, as for Jesse and James, their first fight in Mount Moon just sees slight level increases to make them feel more like a final dungeon boss. The same could be said for the Rocket Hideout fight, which just acts as a warm-up to Giovanni. Moving into the third fight, however, we've gone ahead and added Lickitung. It's here you'll also see Ekans and Coughing evolve together. And then finally, as we move into the Silphco fight, you'll see James add his Victory Bell. Now, overall, these guys aren't insanely difficult.
And we've also added a special cutscene where James gets completely bored by it.
Because they're just not meant to be. The earliest fight is notably the hardest, and from here they go on to fill the role of really just admin. And I really like this because it kind of mirrors them being super intimidating at the start of the anime, only for us to slowly realize that they're not that dangerous. Giovanni, that is of course the main threat. Now,
damn, I love that art. The shadowy art is so sick.
in designing Giovanni's first two teams, we decided to go for a combination of anime and red and blue. His Rocket Hideout team will see Onyx, Kangaskhan, Marowak, and Persian.
We're gonna have a champ.
This is very intentionally not his final gym team. See,
and of course, this final gym team is going to have Mewtwo, 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 Mewtwo.
if you try to change Giovanni and start him with his gym squad but at a lower level, this kind of gives the idea that Giovanni is slowly getting stronger with you. And
I don't expect Giovanni to actually have Mewtwo, by the way. I've definitely not been serious about
don't
that.
think that fits narratively. So instead, the first two fights will continue to show him using some non-core team members while he's away from the gym. Now, the Silphco fight will also see Kangaskhan and Persian.
Having Kingler on is so sick, because I don't think there's a single person in the games that actually uses Kingler. In fact, I often wonder, what's Kingler doing in these games? There are so many Pokemon in Generation 1 that just don't get used because we gotta put another Racaticate on this team. What in God's name is a Racaticate?
But this time, Kingler and Machoke join as anime references.
Oh yes, there we go, nice. That's it. That's what I expected.
This team is also going to feature Golem. What I really like about this ad is that it makes it so that each of these two teams get a unique rock ground line. Onyx is just a constant on that first fight, while the underrepresented Golem perfectly fills out his second team. And
because no one in the games actually use Golem either. I mean, there's a lot of Geodude users, but no one has a friend to trade with. That's so sad.
of course, this then ties in perfect as his final team boasts his ace Rhydon, the strongest of the rock ground trio. And so unlike Red and Blue or Fire Red Leaf Green, Giovanni's yellow team is actually perfect. Doug Trio is a great lead sweeper, the Nidos and Rhydon bring the power, and the fast normal type Persian stops him from being swept by a fast water type. So really, there's a great team already established here, and we just need to give
Actually, you also, I think you can give Persian Thunderbolt as well, which would be really interesting.
the right moves. Now, given the fact that Giovanni has fat stacks, this man can clearly spare no expense in maintaining the strongest gym in the league. It feels fitting, then, that Giovanni should have access to multiples of every TM. This then allows us to give him the best, most powerful moves possible. Because with members that learn
A lore-accurate moveset, I see.
so many great moves, this allows Giovanni to fill the role of strongest gym leader. Pretty much everything has now been given ice, electric, or water, plus his Persian is the first Pokemon to show off that Gen 1.
There it is! Yes, there it is!
Great coverage mixed with some overall impressively statted Pokemon makes for a true final climax to this man's arc. Now, due to storyline reasons, Giovanni will not get a rematch. However, we will look at the other 7 gym leader rematch teams later in this video.
Oh, that's right, the rematches!
One of the most important improvements Yellow has seen. Part 6, the Elite Four.
Here we go, baby.
The original Gen 1 Elite Four is lacking, to say the least. You've got a great start with the Water, Ice, Psychic mixed Lorelei, but then the gas just completely falls off.
And then you have Bruno, which is probably the least impressive Elite Four member that has ever existed. And yes, I'm even counting Will in that. Bruno is less impressive than Will, and is too
Onyx
Zotted.
and no strong moves, Bruno is trash.
He can't even stand up.
Despite having 2 Gengars, Agatha is hot trash. And even Lance, with a pretty respectable looking team, really can't do much with awful learn sets and broken AI. Now,
Didn't even finally evolve his Dragonair.
ironically, Lorelei does have a great team, so we haven't made any changes to her roster, but to start, we did swap the order around so that she now leads Slowbro. With Earthquake, Blizzard, Psychic, and Amnesia, it's just a great lead. Cloyster is then out second with Surf, Ice Beam, Explosion, and Blizzard. Dugong is also here, and it's gonna do Dugong things. Fourth is Jinx, and with Lovely Kiss, Psychic, Ice, and Bubble Beam, this gives it great coverage and utility. And similarly,
I like that Lorelei is a jack of 3 trades. She does really have a mix of just all those 3 types that Smith mentioned earlier. It's not really a single type user like you've been led to believe. The fake ice-type propaganda of Lorelei.
Lapras runs Surf, Thunderbolt, Blizzard, and Sing. Now, moving on to Bruno, listen, it felt blasphemous to remove both Onyx. So, one Onyx will stay, since Primeape wouldn't really add much to this fight, but
And also, Onyx is good now, so it makes sense to keep it
Poliwrath
in.
is both a great and deserved add. Did you know that Poliwrath was never used on a trainer's team in Gen 1? Yeah, the
So many Pokemon once.
only way you could ever see a Poliwrath front sprite was by fighting Ditto with your own or battling a friend with link cables.
Oh, now that is
Now,
weird.
to lead will be Bruno's massively buffed Hitmonchan with Ice and Electric for coverage. With Ice, Sleep, Amnesia, and Hydro Pump, Poliwrath is now him. From
Oh, wow, okay.
Here we got
Amnesia.
him.
Amnesia is ridiculous in these games because it boosts your special stat, which encompasses special defense and special offense. It's just really, really good.
With the moves you would expect, and his Onyx honestly isn't too bad either.
Why does he explode? Does he realize that he's an Onyx? He's like, oh no, God, oh God, I'm an Onyx. Oh man, I kind of don't want to be alive anymore, actually.
And lastly, his Machamp has the expected Body Slam, Earthquake, Rock Slide, and Karate Chop. Given
Karate Chop.
fighting type, Bruno can't ever really be amazing, but these changes do at least make him threatening. However, with
Wow, that crit on Karate Chop is big.
Gengars, Agatha had much more room to grow. So her lead Gengar is now going to run a sleep and heal focused set with Mega Drain, Hypnosis, Dream Eater, and Nightshade.
Oh, that's gross.
The last one will be purely offense focused, running Psychic, Mega Drain, Nightshade, and Thunder. Now, with updated learn sets and buff stats, the Golbat and Arbok were fine to stay, but Haunter was in need of replacing.
Oh, so what, I mean, are we going to go with Venomoth? I mean, there's no more ghost types in this game. You can't really go with Misterievous unless we hack it in, but I suppose it has to be a poison type. Is it going to be Venomoth or is it going to be maybe Mach? It's probably going to be another poison type, but I don't know what fits the vibe of Agatha more than Venomoth would.
Agatha isn't so much a poison or ghost trainer as much as
Oh.
a keeper of horrifying creatures. And so
Oh, a keeper of horrifying creatures. Victory
we thought
bell.
long and hard about the best edition, and in the end, we decided that Marowak was most deserving. Given
Oh, okay. I guess that's lore-wise. That kind of fits.
its prominence in the storyline, association with the Ghost Tower, and Cubone's just general relation to the dead, Marowak just feels right. Plus, with Swords Dance, Body Slam, Rock Slide, and Earthquake, it gives Agatha some much-needed offensive beef. Which
I could imagine Agatha going to the tower, finding a lowly Cubone, crying by itself and saying, "Don't worry, dearie, I'll take good care of you." Growing it into a Marowak, and now it's become a force to be reckoned with. I like that
is something that
lore-wise.
Lance now has a metric buttload of. Lance's new team is going to consist of Dragonite, Gyarados, Charizard, Aerodactyl, and Dragonite, the exact same team as Crystal Legacy, minus Burb. Lance is going to lead with a competitive-inspired Rap
Oh god, not rap! Also, Slam being a dragon type move is very cool.
Wave Dragonite. Gyarados is up next with Fly, Surf, Slam, and Hyper Beam. Now, in Red and Blue, Charizard was a non-option due to a potential conflict with Blue's team, but in Yellow, that problem gets solved for us. Charizard's gonna run Wing Attack, Flamethrower, Earthquake, and Hyper Beam. Next, Lance's Ace Dragonite is going to run a more elemental theme with Blizzard, Fire Blast, and Thunder. However,
No dragon type moves,
it's
though.
Aerodactyl that I would argue gets the title of Scariest League Pokemon. In Gen 1, Aerodactyl's already high speed and attack is compounded by crits being determined off base speed. Turns out,
So basically, if you attack with an Aerodactyl, you're gonna do double damage.
it's like a little over 1 in 5, but
So what, you're essentially running an Aerodactyl with huge power?
originally this never even mattered because Aerodactyl's learn set was just horrible. And with Wing
Oh,
Attack, Rock
yikes.
Slide, Earthquake, and Hyper Beam, it's an offensive nightmare. Also, don't let it Hyper Beam you. Put this all together, Lance's fight is an absolute battle, and without good answers, I wiped 3 times in my first playthrough. Part 7.
Nice.
Rival. I think it goes without saying that Gen 1 has got a truly great rival. Blue's personality is perfectly balanced through the game, while the twist of becoming champion just before you is truly iconic. My personal
Man, I really love his speech at the start of his champion battle when he ends with "I am the strongest trainer in the world," or "I'm the most powerful trainer in the world," and then the music starts. Oh man, that's an anime moment. That's genuinely such a cool moment. It's crazy what you can do with such limitations in these old GBA games or Game Boy Color games.
Is that he doesn't run his classic team members like Gyarados, Arcanine, Pidgeot, or Rhydon. Instead, we've got the likes of Cloyster, Sandslash, and Ninetales, which despite being respectively different, just feels weird. Now, I'm very aware that that is not true for everyone, and a lot of people see these teams as their canon Gen 1 Blue. And so don't worry, this Blue is going to stay in the game. Now, however, rather than seeing one team that simply changes its evolution, there are going to be 3 unique teams for Blue that vary massively. Now, to begin, his Vaporeon team is going to function as a more manga team, and while not easy, it's meant to be the lowest difficulty against Pikachu. The only requirement to get this team for the run is if you lose the very first fight in the lab. Now,
Oh, that's a cool way to determine what team you get. I actually can't remember how they determine what the teams are that you face off
even without
against.
using the potion you can pick up, there's only about a 5% chance to lose this if you just spam Thundershock. And this design is intentional so that
So you purposefully hit Growl until you
if you
lose?
want to face this Vaporeon team, you have to go a bit out of your way and intentionally lose.
It's like choosing a difficulty option in a video
Now next,
game.
the Flareon team is again your base yellow team. This team can only be unlocked for Blue if you beat him in the lab, but don't defeat him in the optional fight on Route 22. Don't engage, just
I love a RPG with choices that matter.
continue north to Brock, and you'll end up with the classic yellow team led by Flareon. And now, finally, if you want to get the Jolteon team, you just have to beat him in both cases. It's worth noting that the second fight is infinitely replayable, so you can lose 10 times, but as long as you sneak out the win before beating Brock, this is the team you're going to see. Now, throughout the early game, all 3 teams will be the same, but we've made adjustments to better show Blue coming into his own as a trainer. He'll have a Bellsprout around Misty, he'll swap Sparrow for Sandshrew heading into Surge. The Pokemon Tower is then where we'll see his team start to diverge. The Vaporeon team will start featuring some manga picks. We'll see Blue experimenting around until he settles on his final team for this.
Oh my god, he has so many Pokemon. It actually makes sense for him to experiment with a ton of different Pokemon too, because he's just like you for real. He wants to catch them all. He's filling out the Pokedex. He even says he has dialogue where he's like, oh, I've got 40 different types, pal. I'm like, where do you even find 40 different types? There's been like 35 since we left the lab. Where have you been, sir?
In fight. This team will see Machamp, Pidgeot, Ninetales, and Alakazam, plus
Ooh.
Victory Bell and Vaporeon. The Flareon team is then going to mostly follow what we see in yellow. He'll finish with Magneton, Alakazam, Sandslash, Cloyster, and Flareon. The
Dodrio, that's such a funny
only difference
addition.
here is Dodrio instead of Exeggutor, and that's because we felt like it's more tied to his red and blue team, which is the Jolteon team. The Jolteon team is also going to play around a bit, but it will end with the team most know Blue for. Alakazam, Rhydon,
Oh yeah, there it is. It really does feel like Exeggutor is Blue's Pokemon. No Pidgeot though.
Gyarados, Arcanine, and Exeggutor. It's
Now this is a good team though.
an iconic set. The only difference is Jolteon replaces Pidgeot. This team will start to show some pretty menacing sets, so despite the 4x weaknesses, this is definitely the hard option. Blue also plays around with really scary leads. And on top of adding difficulty, this is just a subtle reference to his lead in Crystal Legacy. Part 8. Post-game. Now,
All right, I'm interested. There's never been a post game in Pokemon Yellow before, but there is in a lot of Pokemon games. Obviously, the biggest post game being in Generation 2, where you get the whole region. So it's cool to think of what did they do? What did they add to this? I'm assuming a lot of battles. Maybe battle Mum. Maybe battle Daisy. You're gonna battle Professor Oak, obviously. You're gonna battle Giovanni, maybe.
originally, after beating Gen 1, there wasn't
Oh wait, there is no post game battle with Giovanni because he just buggers off and he just
a
leaves.
whole lot to do. You can catch Mewtwo, replay the Elite Four, but the only major objective you're left with is to catch them all. And I feel like this goal is actually a whole lot more significant in Gen 1 because of the lack of any other post-game content. And so because of that, the final story beats and endgame bosses we've added will attempt to not overshadow this goal. So before we get to the storyline beat we've added around catching them all, we're going to go through the post-game fights we have added. My single biggest issue with many Pokemon games is that despite becoming champion, it's not often acknowledged. You get your big Hall of Fame moments, and then there's nothing else. There's no
That is true. Not many people even refer to you as a champion. No one gives you the respect that you deserve. Everyone still spits on you as they walk by. And, well, I mean, they spit on me as I walk. Does that happen to anyone else?
hype, there's no congratulations, your mom doesn't even say well done.
That's really
Master
cute.
Craig has done a great job of making post-game cancel feel like you're actually champion. Pretty much
She says, congratulations! Now you'll face your greatest challenge, not the champion, but fighting your mother for who has to do the dishes.
everywhere you go now, people recognize your achievements, and the game feels surprisingly full because of it. If you go to a gym
That's
leader,
cool.
every single one is going to be like, yo, you're the champion. That's crazy. They'll then ask you if you want to rematch them at their full power, which is going to be very reminiscent of the teams you saw in Crystal Legacy. Not only are these teams pretty optimal to begin with, but it lets you guys experience those fights on the
Oh, yeah, look at that. She gets a Blastoise. Of course, she gets Lapras. You got a Vaporeon, Golduck, and everything.
engine. There are a few changes since
Oh man, look, he got so many new Pokemon. Interesting that he gets a Porygon though.
Members were from Gen 2, but for the most part, they're familiar, well-built teams. Now next, and before we get to the more storyline-focused fights, there are 3 players from our team added into the game. Libra is our incredible editor who literally makes every single
Oh, okay, we got some self-inserts.
video you watch on this channel. Without her bomb-ass editing skills, you probably wouldn't even know about this project. She's been added into the game, and you can find her now guarding Articuno in Seafoam Cave. And
That's really cool. I mean, the editing on this is very extensive and very
I guess while
impressive.
this isn't all technically post-game, she is level 55, and this is intentional to prevent players from going to get a super early legendary and stomping the rest of the game. Similarly, Craig is the man behind the code. He's sifted through a sea of bugs, glitches,
This guy, I am so impressed by what this person has managed to achieve. Fiddling around with assembly is something that I would rather cut off all of my fingers and staple them to my toes, especially with the slap job that they had to do. The fact that it's held together with paper mache hopes and dreams just makes me never want to look at it. But this person, the hero. Yes, definitely a GOAT. And also an Arcanine enjoyer, which I mean, I've already said, but favorite Pokemon of all time, so we have similar interests.
and oddities of the Gen 1 engine, and again, this project would not be in your hands without him. You can find him watching over Zapdos in the power plant. Victory Road is also now full of great trainers who have been handpicked to resemble our amazing team of playtesters and mods. There's also a certain zesty man that gets to Cerulean Cave before you, and it doesn't look
Whoa, 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 whoa. Little twinsies, I
like
see.
he's just gonna roll over and let you take Mewtwo.
How much zest? Oh, Smith.
We've also got rematches for the Elite Four. When looking at Elite Four rematches, we pretty quickly realized that there isn't a lot more you can do for these guys outside of giving them a 6th team member. Pokemon Stadium
God, make me fight Daisy. Make me fight Professor Oak. Come
is
on.
a game that we're never going to touch, but I know how dear it is to a lot of you old school players. The team suggested giving their E4 their final Pokemon Stadium teams, and I absolutely love it. While
No, I've actually never played Pokemon Stadium, the original one. I played the sequel a little bit. I never owned either of them, so I don't know how hard these fights get. Having a Wiggly stuff is pretty interesting, though.
These teams aren't in line with their monotype cohesion. I don't think it makes for a huge problem, as none of the
Clefable? What is Bruno doing with the Clefable? You know, he's getting in touch with his feminine side, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Elite Four ever really had that going for them anyway. Adding in the Stadium teams instead provides some very unique fights, and I think it helps make Yellow feel a bit more like the definitive Gen 1 title. Now, as for Blue, he won't be running a Stadium set, but instead the same one we see in Crystal Legacy minus Articuno. Also, it's worth noting that for 95% of you, this will be your post-game boss. We've still got 3 more trainers to look at, however.
Oh, come on. Let me fight the mom. Let me fight Daisy.
Which is even stronger than Blue. No, first,
Professor
we
Oak.
decided it would be fun to have an optional Officer Jenny fight. As the hand of the law, she's someone that I can very easily believe to be strong. She'll challenge you in Vermilion, and her team are all picks from the anime. She leads Pidgeot, her ace is Arcanine. There's
Wow. What, is she the police commissioner? Jesus Christ.
Tangela.
This is the state-sanctioned violence that we see. Why does she have a Parasect is an interesting
Plus
pick.
Gengar will fill in for Ghastly. And lastly,
Okay, Gengar does make sense. Did she have a Paris in the anime? That's really interesting. Gengar makes sense because in a police situation, someone gets murdered, you're going to need someone to speak with the spirits, obviously. Or maybe you do a little bit of spying. You do a little bit of undercover detective work. You follow someone around. If you have something that can be inside of your walls, literally be inside of your walls, well, then it's a lot easier to do so. Blastoise works for firefighting, but also it's a tank. And we know about those American police budgets, don't we? They basically have their own little fleet of tanks.
we decided to give her a Blastoise, given her relation to the Squirtle Squad. Similarly, we
No, the Squirtle Squad. Yeah, no, it's not because... Right. I mean, some of them have tanks.
given a fight to the Fuchsia City Nurse Joy. As a reference to the anime, her background explains that she actually loves battling, but her job keeps her from getting to travel and challenge the league. This
That's
helps make
cool.
sense of why she's so strong. And so if you want to fight her, just head to the Fuchsia Pokemon Center and she'll ask for a battle after healing. The legendary Chansey is of course her ace. And her team consists of an extremely unique stall set of 2 resters, 2
Oh no, Stall! All right, who wants to fight the Stall set?
recoverers, and 2 soft spoilers. I will add those are 2 custom sprites added in by Zach and Carlos.
They're really cool.
Anyway, for our last fight, as so many of you have asked for it, we have implemented not just 1, but 2 Professor Oak fights. Now, it's known that Professor Oak was once a super cracked trainer, but he gave it all up to pursue his studies. Oak does claim to give his last Pokemon away, which makes this a little bit tricky, but not completely.
Unfortunately, Oak's a liar.
Unworkable. Given that he changed his focus to studies, I find it hard to think that Oak would have actually released all of his Pokemon. Personally, I like to think that he just stopped training them and did something like put them in a habitat somewhere. We're gonna have Oak explain to the player that watching you compete with Blue has reignited his spark as a trainer. It reminds him of his days as a trainer. And on Route 1, you'll have your first fight. Now, given that this is in the unused fight code,
it's so interesting that he has a Tauros.
Oak is going to lead Tauros. Next, we've gone ahead and actually given him all 3 starters instead of the one that isn't picked, like in Red and Blue. This just gives him a much more unique team than if we were to run the Gyarados, Arcanine, Exeggutor trio. Snorlax is, of course, going to be his 5th, and given its association with Oak in the opening cutscene, it feels like Nidoking is the most deserving slot for his ace. Now, after the fight, this will awaken Oak's trainer mindset once more, and he's going to mention that he's going to strive to get back into top form. Now, this—
oh no, you're awakening Oak. He's going to do his domain expansion in a second.
Next part is for those select few who
this is Super Oak 3.
Choose to go above and beyond and complete the Pokedex. This is where the new storyline spoilers begin.
Okay. So I'm thinking you complete the Pokedex and then you unlock the final battle with Oak after he's so impressed that you managed to complete the Pokedex. Wow, you did such a good job. Okay.
Acquiring 150 Pokemon, the player is able to receive their diploma. This will obviously impress Oak. However, it's going to be the sighting and capture of Mewtwo that truly puzzles him. While Oak was able to document 149 Pokemon, the recently discovered Mewtwo sparks his curiosity.
Man, this is so cool. I absolutely love the fact that, wait, he's going to get Mew. Oh my god, he's going to get Mew, isn't he? He's going to go to the freaking house and he's gonna be like, oh, I found a Mew. All right, you got Mewtwo, I got Mew, let's fight. It's really cool that they're adding this post-game, this story, this extended storyline that actually does make sense and works within the lore. It's not just, you know, fan fiction that you're making up like, and then Gary had a crush on Red and he said, okay, but you beat me, but can we go to the ice cream together? It's nothing like that. It makes sense within what the characters might actually do.
To the Pokemon Mansion in Cinnabar searching for answers. Now, in all his years of discovery, Oak has never seen anything like Mewtwo, and this makes him extremely wary. Due to the mysterious aura and history of the mansion, he decides he must bring his most powerful Pokemon. When the player shows up, Oak is seen reading a journal entry, and when talked to, he begins to question Mewtwo's origins. He then goes on to talk about his time exploring for research. He explains how he looked all over to uncover every single species for the Pokedex. And
oh man, this is kind of like, yeah, this is like spoilers. Oh my goodness. Okay, it's just so sick
given
though.
The player's equal, if not better, knowledge of what lay in the depths of the Pokedex, he then begins to explain something he's never told another soul. During Oak's research, he came across 3 incredibly rare species of bird. Sightings had been reported of them before, but no trainer had ever caught one. And like canon Pokemon lore, despite popular belief, they were not one of a kind.
Oh, and he's like, oh, by the way, yeah, I just have these buds. I don't know. Are these like cool? Oh, I didn't realize they were cool. Yeah, no, I have them all. Is that all right?
He was the first to catch them, however. Yet despite his desire to share this newfound knowledge with the world, he was fearful of what might happen if it were revealed that he had control over such powerful Pokemon. This unbridled power could be disastrous if it were to fall into the wrong hands. And so over all these years, Oak's been keeping these 3 Pokemon hidden for the safety of both the species and the region. And upon learning of Mewtwo's creation, he recognizes that his fears were well placed. Finally, however, Oak snaps back to the present. He recognizes your achievement as not just a champion, but as a true master of Pokemon. He challenges you to one more battle, and the halls of Mewtwo's birthplace echo out once more. Oak once again
that's cool.
His trusty Tauros, but
and he starts with the Tauros.
Upon it fainting, the player's suspicion is finally confirmed, as Oak sends out Zapdos, Moltres, and finally, Articuno.
Okay. But he has more Pokemon than that. He has 2 more, right? Does he have a Mew?
Myth, the birds are, unlike Mewtwo, not one of a kind, but rather only extremely rare. only presenting themselves to worthy trainers. And yet, despite Oak's sheer force, he is still no match for Red, who
he is
finally
Nidoking.
claims the title as the strongest trainer in the Kanto region. After the battle, Oak will then note that something in the air has changed. He notes a new presence set over the space, brought on by the overwhelming force of the battle which just took place. He'll tell you to keep your wits about you, and a distant mewing can be heard by the player.
I knew there'd be something going on with me. Oh, you get attracted to the battle. You got attracted to the force. Hey, I will say it's really cool the way the mew like blends into the floor there too.
To the basements, the player will find the source of all DNA, and Pokemon number 151 will be ready for battle.
And this is how you finish the game.
That is Pokemon Yellow Legacy. I'll take this
that's so
opportunity
cool.
to first let you know that our next plan is to go ahead with completing this trio and hopefully drop Emerald Legacy by the end of the year. The Crystal expansion is
By the end of the year? Wow, that is a very, very large amount of work to put onto yourself. I mean, there's only so many months before the end of the year.
But just not for this year. I also need to take an opportunity to shout out the entire Pokemon Legacy team.
100%. These people have done such a fantastic job, like from changing the back sprites to adding the new sprites into the game, to the coding changes, to all the art changes here. Like, it's really impressive, and I can only imagine it took a large amount of people working together to make this happen. So really, really, really big applause to all of these people. They did a fantastic job. This game looks very, very good.
Arrow, Disc, Izona, Zach, Carlos, Bryce, Reggie, Alakadoof, Sable, Tiberius, Reader, Soul, Talos, Rune, Mogul, Craig, and Weebra again. Everyone in the Discord, and of course the Pret team who made the disassembly for us to modify this hack in the first place. And lastly, thank you to you guys. I've been wanting to do this project for like 3 years now, and for the longest time I was doing it as a passion project, and I didn't even have a Pokemon channel. Things fell really neatly into place for this project, but even with that,
for those of you that didn't know, Smith used to do Call of Duty videos, and just decided to open up a Pokemon channel, and honestly has been killing it with this Pokemon channel. Has been making things that no one else has done, has been making unique content, has just been doing a really, really, really good job just doing this. I watch a lot of these videos, and they're very good.
I never expected so much overwhelming support. I know there's a lot of ROM hacks out there, and it's really encouraging how many people just want simple ROM hacks to replay the games that we all grew up playing and, love so much.
And I think it really helps when you have a ROM hack that is being created in real time, and you can see the development process alongside a YouTuber that you like. They're uploading videos, they're sharing ideas, and you're sharing ideas in the comments, and it helps build that kind of loyalty and that want and desire to play even more because you're attached to it emotionally.
Again, I am the face of this project, but the dozens of people that stand behind me off the sidelines, I don't know if I can begin to explain how much work from other people that are just doing this because they enjoy it. Hundreds of hours of people's free time. And so, I appreciate the thank yous, but
and they're all incredibly talented, and no one would be able to do this if it wasn't for help from other people.
Thank the team, because without the team, this doesn't happen. Also, if you want to play this ROM hack yourself, there's patch links down below, but I've also made a full video explaining how to do so. That's in the description. Also, just want to say, happy playing. Yellow was never a personal favorite of mine. I'm definitely a core red and blue kind of guy. This project actually made me appreciate even base yellow a whole lot more, and now it's just in a really great place where my nostalgia and rose-tinted glasses kind of meet up with what I remember of those games. And I guess what I'm just trying to say is, Yellow is a game that I was not super familiar with going into this, but I really have come to respect it, and I hope that you guys can enjoy it and see it how I see it now. Much love. Thank you guys so much.
I do remember playing Yellow when I was a child, and this feels like the version that I thought that I was playing when I was younger. But if you do want to play the game, of course, I will leave the original video in the description, and all of the stuff is in there. You can get the tutorial on how to play, you can download the patch, you can get all of the documentation, the ROM patching tool, some codes, and of course, you can leave some nice comments on Smith's video as well. Please make sure to subscribe to Smith because, of course, there's going to be the Emerald version coming out later as well that I'm sure you'll be interested in. So please go and check it out. And if you want to see more of my dumb face, then you can always subscribe here as well.